Wow, I feel like I'm getting ready to start a documentary or something, Mac.
Right, I know. I wasn't dancing on that one, but I sure did feel pretty epic coming in. I was like, yes, look at me. That's right. That's right. That's right. We did have a discussion right before we came on, though, with the lighting that I need to just sit like this because my bald head shines in the light. But I'm not going to do that. So you're just going to have to suffer with my shiny bald head. I'm sorry. What's happening, guys? We are back for another episode of Indie Invasion Shorts with, check this out, bam! That's right.
It's very
Indie
appropriate.
Invasion Shorts coffee cup and everything, which you can get them on Redbubble. What? And they're even cooler than this because I got mine before Eric tweaked the design and put Indie Invasion Shorts. So you can have a cooler one than I have. What's up, Jim? We were just talking about you. I was throwing Eric under the bus about coming to Southern Fried Gaming Expo.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what I do, my friend.
Throws me under the bus.
Oh, heck yeah. That's what friends do, man. That's love right there. That's gaming love right there. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, here we are. Oh, there's Todd. What's happening, Todd?
Hello, Todd.
Watching on Facebook. Jim's watching on YouTube. Oh, there you go. See? In the Jedi voice. Eric, come to Southern Fried. What's happening, Alder? Oh, Alder, check this out. Check this coffee cup out. Indie Invasion Shorts coffee cup. Bam! Right there. Right there. So we're having our cup of coffee with our good friend Alder all the way in Australia. Got Jim joining us and Todd. So sure, some other people will join up shortly. What are we going to talk about tonight for the shortest 30 minutes in gaming?
Well, we got an in-depth solving gaming problems discussion tonight.
Well, that's par for the course, right?
We are going to be talking about resin versus metal versus plastic.
Oh, yes. And I can feel the fighting happening already.
We're talking about minis and basically the materials that make up our little dudes. And I think we'll probably cover some pros and cons and which ones we prefer more than the other and stuff like that. So
and I will preface this entire conversation with this. There is no right answer to this question. There is no right answer. There is only your favorite answer. That's my 2 cents on it. There's no right answer. Pluses and minuses to all of them. So that's what we're going to talk about because there's a lot of cool companies out there doing a lot of different things. There's Spaz says I'm wrong. Plastic is the truth. Hey, now I could block you. Watch it. I wouldn't, but watch it. There's so much cool stuff out there with the 3D printing. You can get the resin printers for almost nothing now compared to what they were, not really almost nothing. They're still, I think I priced one because I'm slowly leaning into the idea of getting one so that I can do that, print a Chibi Galactus. Right. But they're affordable now to do. And there's so much good plastic manufacturing out there. And there's really so much good still metal spin casting stuff out there. Spaz says if I block all his accounts, our subscriptions will be cut in half.
He's got a lot of aliases. Makes you wonder about the man.
That's right. And Jim said a sneeze never took a metal mini off the table. That's true.
You just don't have the right coin underneath that base.
That's right. Well, if you got clear bases like
you're just out of luck.
There's nothing I can do about it. I didn't actually used to put coins. What I used to do, and I loved this, I got it from a buddy of mine when I was playing 40K, is I would take wood putty and I would close off the bottom of my lipped bases.
Yeah, just make it a solid.
And it added a good chunk of weight to it too. But anyway, we're not talking about basing. but you should write that down because that's probably a good topic.
Yeah, it is. I'll have
So
to add that to the list.
You should probably write that down. But we are talking about miniatures and the materials they're made of. So let's jump right in.
Yeah,
Eric,
so
you go first.
I'm gonna ask you a question first.
Am I being interviewed?
So what did you start with in the world of miniatures and hobbying? Did you
start with? I
think most of us are
chewing on lead miniatures.
Yeah, I was gonna say most of us in our generation pretty much started with the lead miniatures,
the Grenadier, the Ral Partha. Those are the ones I started with, and the old Wargamer guys, they go back even farther on those kind of minis than the Grenadier and Ral Partha. But when they came out, you were just like, this is the most amazing model I've ever seen. And then you're digging through your junk drawer and you find one of them and you go, that is the most hideous thing I have ever seen in my life. So it's kind of funny how far it has come. But yeah, I started on metal. I'm guessing most of the guys that are in here are probably started on metal too. What about you? Were you in it all the way back in metal?
Yeah, I mean that was back in the 80s, right? So when we kind of got exposed to D&D and the different metal sets that they had back then, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember seeing like resin or plastic back then.
I don't.
Unless you were doing like your your car models or plane models, then you would see plastic. But for the most part, for miniature games and stuff, it was all, the metal that can kill you if you chew on it.
Yep. And I don't remember seeing plastic miniatures outside of toys instead of, or outside of
like board games, right?
Yeah. But when I started really seeing plastic miniatures, it was GW stuff, the early Space Hulk.
Oh, those little.
the little egg Terminators. I think Spaz posted a picture of one of them in the Discord. But yeah, the old plastic ones. So that was the first time I remember seeing plastic. And then my Man of War box. The starter box for Man of War by Games Workshop, it had plastic ships in it.
Okay.
So that was kind of the first introduction outside of all of the little.
Yeah, me, it was all metal because I actually still have a lot of those old ones from way back then. I mean, they had the enamel paint on them because that's what we thought we did. And I have.
With the big white paintbrush that came in the car model kit. Absolutely. That's how you paint eyes.
I mean, I think I still have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle metal miniatures I have from back then. I think I might have dragged them out before and was showing them off and stuff. I'll have to dig them back out and take some pictures and stuff.
Well, Spaz mentions the plastic Space Orcs and Space Marines from GW, and I remember those too. I still have some of the grots, the monopose grots. I still have quite a few of those. I'm sorry, they weren't monopose. There were something like 40 of them, and there were two poses. So yeah, it was one was like
mirrored them.
One was like this, and then one was like this. That was the extent of the difference. Oh, even before those, I don't think I remember those ones. But maybe you're older than me, or maybe you just had them and I couldn't afford them because, I probably couldn't afford them. But anyway, let's jump into metal miniatures, pros and cons. Okay, so metal miniatures. We've already had a couple people pipe in about that. Jim said you can't sneeze a metal miniature off the table, which is a true statement.
Yeah, that weight,
and Alder saying that he loved the feel of the metal minis, but the reality is he also said something else. But we'll talk about that when we get to plastic, because it was about plastic. So we'll talk about that. So what do you like about metal miniatures?
Well, I think so. There was many years between the 80s and the 2000s that I didn't do any miniature hobbying. It's poor college student type thing. I couldn't afford that stuff at all. So when I got back into it, it was, of course, GW. And a lot of that stuff at that time was the metal. And they were just starting to do some of the plastic for the bigger models. And for a long time, I preferred the metal because of the ease to work with it. You didn't have to worry about trimming too much. It was just, it stood up the abuse
Yeah.
better than say like a resin that could get too hot and kind of shrivel on you, or the plastics you just didn't see that much. So I really at that time liked metal, and it over the course of the last, God, I'm gonna sound old here, 30 years. Well, maybe 20 years. I'm giving myself too much
don't
time
be
there.
generous. Don't be generous. You know the truth.
It's been a very slow change in what I prefer. And with us, the last few years getting more into the indie scene, a lot of independent game developers out there use the metal, for their game ranges. So it's kind of nice to go back and use metal, and use that big old chunky file to file them down. So I mean, and some of the pros is that, and I think they're easier to clean sometimes.
I think they can be too easier to clean. I like them. I like the weight. I like the weight of a metal model. I just do. They tend to, now this has changed considerably lately, but used to be they could hold a little bit more detail than the plastic models. And now that has changed a lot, especially you look at guys like War Cradle and what Malifaux is doing. Of course, GW, when you have to put 5,000 skulls on a model that's 1.5 inches tall, you gotta be able to get some serious detail in there.
Yeah.
But I like the weight of them, and not to mention the fact that I did do a drop test today, not on purpose, but I did a metal miniature drop test with 4 models that fell off the shelf, and they do come apart. Todd mentioned that they're prone to breaking. That's very true. But I pin my models anyway, so that doesn't really become a problem when I pin them, because I pin them pretty deep, and I use a paper clip, so I drill them pretty deep
until you throw them at somebody, right?
Until I throw them at somebody. But I reserve those for the really big ones, because it's not as effective if you just throw a little.
That could be a pro right there.
That's definitely a pro. That's definitely a pro. And if somebody decides to table flip on you and your whole army is metal, they may not be able to flip the table.
Yeah,
it could be a heavy table. So that's my thing. I prefer metal. They're my favorite, and my favorite games, most of my favorite games do most of their stuff in metal, because like you said, the indie market really uses it, because as I understand it, and I have very limited knowledge on casting and making any of these models, but I have talked with James a little bit from the Drowned Earth Olmec Games, and the cost of spin casting tends to be cheaper, as I understand it. If anybody out there knows different, please tell me. So Spaz threw out there that his order is plastic, metal, and resin, and Todd agrees. Well, I don't. I like metal, plastic, and resin. Mm-hmm. So there.
So can you think of any cons for metal?
They're heavy. I mean, and that's a pro and a con. I like the weight of them, but they can be heavy, especially with some of the larger models. And so like, since I put my models on clear bases, one of the things that I have to do is I got to clip the tabs on the bottom. And then when you sand that last bit off, I always sand them so that I can stand the model up on my desk before I try to glue them. That's a good point that Jim makes too. Sometimes shipping costs can be higher, because you order a whole bunch of miniatures, that box gets heavy pretty darn quick.
Yeah. So especially if you're ordering from GW, it's those old games where you just get a ton of minis. But that is definitely true too. That shipping, and if it's a company that's overseas,
and Todd makes a good point too. But we'll get to that when we talk about plastic, because that's a really good point there too that he makes. So I see it, Todd. I see your comment. I'll get to it. I promise.
And I mean, we did mention like if you drop them, for the most part, if you pin them good, they're going to stay together. But
they do.
I've had plenty of models just tip over, and for just nothing bad, but it's enough that it just goes, boop, pops it off. But you just glue it back in.
And they can tend to be top heavy with the larger models. You can definitely get that tipping. I remember that with some of my old DW models.
Like this beast.
Is he metal?
He's metal, and he's a little top heavy.
Yeah, I can remember that with some of my old Space Marines, just particular ones that would be posed in a certain way. A metal las gun that was sticking way out off of the base. just with that tilt forward. So those are some of the disadvantages to them. But again, it all comes down to what your preference is. I love working in metal. I like all of them really, but metal is my preference.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So the next one.
Well, I gotta answer this one. Todd says they do dent if the fall is high enough. Where are you playing, dude? Where are you playing that it's high enough?
Hey, man, that's a serious table. You got that step ladder out there.
Right? Dang, man. I'd be scared to play at that table. That's scary. Whew.
Oh,
that's true though. It can bend the arms and stuff, but that was funny, Todd. I'm sorry. It's like a really tall table. Anyway, what's the next?
Next one's resin, and from what we've seen in some of the chat, there's a lot of people that don't really like resin.
Yeah, and I can understand that because I've bought a lot of resin miniatures from. I'll give an example from TT Combat, okay? Because I did Rumble Slam, Carnivale. I love those two model lines. And when TT Combat started really getting into making models, when they started doing the Rumble Slam stuff after they did the Kickstarter, they had models here and there, but they didn't really have a bunch of stuff. And when they really started doing the resin in the beginning, you could really see where they were working through figuring out how to do resin and what resin quality to use, because I ended up with a lot of stuff that had bubbles. You get bubbles in the resin, and if you've got a thin point, you might not even see it. I had one model in particular that had real thin ankles, but you couldn't see the bubble because it had a really thin layer of resin that completed, but almost the whole ankle was just completely gone because there was an air bubble in it. But what I will say is, as they progressed and learned more and more, their resin got better and better and better and better. So I think that most companies are doing it like that now, where they've kind of gotten it down. Even the smaller companies, Twisted does some resin.
It's pretty nice too. They keep the detail.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, it's clean where it's a good formula. You don't have the bubbles or, I've had resin before where it felt tacky, like it wasn't cured enough.
Yep. Or even rubbery resin.
Yeah. So those are
rubbery resin.
Those are definitely some cons, but positive wise, I would say I like resin to work with. Now granted, you sand it, you don't want to be breathing that stuff in.
Oh, sure.
But it's never stopped me from working on it. So I do kind of like the ease of sanding it down, really.
Yeah.
It's a little bit easier to clean up as opposed to metal when you have your mold lines and stuff like that. So it seems like it takes the paint pretty good too. I mean, you prime it and you start painting it, and then it's not as heavy as a metal miniature, so it's a little easier on your shoulder and your bags.
I don't even know what kind of miniatures you're playing with. I mean, I'm playing 28, 32 millimeter scale. What scale are you using?
Well, I'm the kind of player, and Todd can attest to this, is that you bring everything.
Oh yeah, you got to bring everything.
You never know what you need.
Alder makes a good point here. Resin miniatures, your car, the middle of summer in Australia equals melted gooey mess.
Yeah, that is.
And well, when I was talking about the progression in resin usage, to me that's kind of the biggest turnoff of resin. Don't mishear me. I like some resin models too.
Yeah,
but whenever you order from somebody, you don't know what kind of resin you're getting. Yeah. Sometimes you get that tacky resin. Sometimes you get the harder, more brittle resin. It just seems like there's a lot of different resins out there, and I don't know anything about it. So if anybody resin prints, maybe you know what the differences are, because I don't. But I distinctly remember I got a model, and I also, now I'm going to defend this company too. They progressed a long way as well. But when Arena Rex first came out,
that's what I was thinking of.
Right. I got a model that was, I can't remember who it was, but it had a single contact point on the base and a skinny ankle and was standing on one foot. So that was the only point. And like Alder was saying, with the heat, that can happen to resin. Well, in this particular instance, it wasn't that hot. So I live in the Southeast United States in South Carolina, and we had a hurricane come through and we didn't have power in the house for 2 days. So it got to 95 degrees in the house, 95 degrees. And the miniature did, and was up on a top shelf, and the miniature said, whoop, and just bent over at the ankle. And it, like I said, it was only 95 degrees in the house. It wasn't that hot. I realize that's really uncomfortable, but it's not like sitting in your car where it was going to melt. But they've come a long way too. They don't use that resin anymore. So I think you really only get bad resin when somebody's just starting to use resin.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, one of the things I think is neat about resin is if you go on Etsy, okay, and you see a lot of these stores that are selling, the 3D prints, a lot of times they're resin, models that you can buy. Right. So I think the resin itself, while it is, something to really learn about, especially at home, the mixtures and stuff like that. It's pretty easy to get into, doing your own resin miniatures with the way that 3D printing is now.
Yeah, that's what Todd was saying, is it's a photosensitive liquid resin, whereas most of them are 2-part resin. So I guess I don't know, but we're only talking about what we think about it versus how you're actually doing it. But those are my experiences. And small items like staves and things tend to be really brittle with resin. But now I will say, I think the guys at Demented Games solved that problem with their models. So their resin models that have the little points that stick out like that, what they did is there's a metal rod inside each one of those little points that sticks out so that it won't just snap off. And I thought that was pretty cool when Peter told me that. So I had to take my knife and shave down so that I could see that it was really there.
You didn't believe him?
I did believe him, but I was like, that's so cool. I got to see that. And listen, to be fair, I mostly have 2 of every Twisted model because I really like Twisted. That's my jam. That's my jam. All right. So resin didn't get a really good review there. We got to give it something good. We got to give it something good.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a couple of things. It's lighter. It's for me, it's easier to work with. You
can 3D print it.
3D print, so it's more accessible to the general public, I think, with 3D printing. So there's that, those positives to it.
And they're not as heavy. And some people, that makes a difference too. If they really don't like the chunk of metal, resin is good. Resin is light. There's no question about that. And sometimes that's all you can get. And that's okay, because if the model is cool enough, I really don't care what it's made out of.
Yeah, true. So, all right. So we got another one. Our last one, plastic.
Plastic seems to be the overall winner.
So this is the now, basically. We see a lot of companies going to plastic anymore, and a lot of it, I think, is because of the it's cost effective for them. It's easy for them to get models done in plastic.
That's what Todd was saying, is that getting the molds made, that's where it's expensive.
Yeah.
But then after that, the process is much cheaper.
And the molds will hold up better with plastic,
right,
as opposed to metal. That just every cast that you do with the metal, man, it's going to eat away at that mold.
Yeah, I have no idea. This is something for the metal stuff we should ask Josh from Zombie Smith.
Yeah,
because he spin casts his stuff, so he would be the guy to ask for sure. And Spaz says, imagine if that resin model did a Wile E. Coyote off of Todd's gaming table. I'm going to insert something there, though, Spaz. I'm going to say off of Todd's 40-foot gaming table.
Yeah.
40-foot high, not 40-foot long. We're teasing you about that, Todd, but we're teasing you because we love you. So don't take it the wrong way. We're only teasing because we love. Alder said metal, plastic, resin. I think that's mine, too. Metal, plastic, resin. But the big thing for me for plastic, and I saw this mentioned, and it was probably everyone that said this, conversions. All day long in plastic, man. I mean,
that's the number. I think that's the number one reason to do plastic. You can kit bash.
Oh man,
so easy with that.
It is so easy. A good pair of snips, a little file, little jeweler's saw, whatever it is, it's so easy to do.
And glue wise, you're just using I always just go to like Ace Hardware and get the plastic model glue for the models because
Yeah.
it's a little bit cheaper than getting the hobby,
Yeah.
store plastic model glue.
Yeah.
So it's, it's not super messy where you're going to glue yourself to the model
Yeah. And it'll never come apart ever.
or, in some people's case, like Jim, I know Jim, he's allergic to super glue. So he has a hard time working with it. And I know there's a lot of people out there like that.
Yeah, but Jim still likes metal models.
He just doesn't lick his fingers as much.
I guess so. I'm not sure. But yeah, conversions are huge for the plastic. And especially nowadays with the quality of plastic that's coming out. And really, I mean, you can go back even 10 years and the plastic was really getting really good. I think of in particular, I think of the Wild West Exodus models. Even 10 years ago, they were mostly plastic. The heroes were in resin, but all your line troops, all your hands were plastic, and they had pretty good detail. I will say that you can see the difference between then and now in the level of detail.
Yeah, and a lot of that though is like the 3D sculpting now. How 3D sculpting has kind of blown up.
Right.
It's quicker and easier to make alterations to a design. Doing it
probably really didn't blow up. It's just we're aware of it because we don't know anything about it. So now we think it blew up, but really it blew up like 10 years ago. And we're like, yeah, that just blew up now because we just found out about it. We're convinced the world revolves around us, I guess. Yeah, it just now blew up. It's huge right now.
So of course, with conversions and stuff, what goes along with plastic is working with it in general, cleaning it up, putting it together. If you drop it, it's going to bounce before it breaks.
Yeah, especially if you used. See, we say plastic glue, but I always say it was model glue to me because it was always put together models.
Yeah,
but if you put it together with that, you can throw it on the ground and it's not going to come apart.
That's a strong bond because that stuff basically melts that plastic.
Does. It's exactly what it does. But Jim makes a good point too, is look at the Hero Forge color stuff. That stuff's great. My RPG group, when we started, everybody bought one from Hero Forge. And they look really good. I don't think they look as good as a painted model, but they do look really good. And Todd also made a good point of metal versus plastic. Try stripping a plastic model in acetone and see how that goes.
Yeah, see, now that's the one. That's one of the downsides is if you have to repaint it.
You're in trouble. There's ways to get them off. I've stripped metal and resin models with acetone, but I'll put them in acetone. I'll count to 10 and take them out and rinse them off, and then take a toothbrush, and I can usually get the majority of the paint off. But you got to be really careful because, like we were talking about, all that detail they've managed to put on, it doesn't last.
No,
when you once it goes in that acetone. So, and Spaz said he never tried stripping a plastic model. You should go try. They turn to goo.
Chalk it up as a learning experience.
It will definitely be a learning experience because they become nothing but goo. But so yeah, for me, it's metal, plastic, resin. What about you?
All right. So, what do I prefer to use? That's a tough one. I think I'm going to have to, because of the way I've progressed, I'm going to have to go plastic, metal, resin.
Okay.
So
Spaz says he won't have to strip any plastic models because his painting is too amazing. I love that confidence level. That's a fantastic confidence level right there. Just remember, only you have to love your models. So that's right. Spaz will never have to strip any of his models. And Jim did metal, plastic, resin as well. Yeah, resin's just it's not my favorite.
It's okay, but
even with some of the I remember I got a quick metal resin comparison. And again, I don't know anything about the printers, but one of my favorite game companies that I love their sculpts is Antimatter Games. And their whole line is in metal. And recently they've done some plastic one or resin ones, and they look great. The models look great. But when I started painting them, I could very subtly see those resin layer lines. And I mean very subtly. But in my mind, to a model that was such high quality in metal and so well sculpted and so full of character and detail and the little nuances that made the model what it was, it was much less in my mind compared to what it was. You know what I mean? The metal was just really superior. And that may have been because he's new in the resin.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That may be that process.
I've seen companies that have been doing resin for a longer time, and I've seen progression of how, they get the formula and the sculpts just right, where it looks really good. It has some good detail and stuff like that. And, it holds its form type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I think plastic for me it's all because of the conversions. I got back into the hobby because I would kit bash my GW stuff and, cut arms off and turn them this way. Or, for me, it was the zombies and the vampire counts. I was putting all kinds of stuff stuck in them and all that. So that's a lot of fun.
And Craig was talking too about the resin. The Monster Apocalypse ones are all resin.
Yeah.
And they have flash all over them. And then washing them in soap and water just to make sure they hold paint. So yeah, there's some stuff for the mold.
I do that with everything already.
Yeah, I know, but you take 6 months to prep a model. We know, everybody knows, they've been to the hobby hangout. They know. They were so proud of you when you did all your wolves. We were all so proud of you.
Yeah.
All right, Alder's taking off. He has to get back to work while the rest of us prepare ourselves for bed. But have a good day at work, Alder. Thanks for joining us again. We're wrapping up anyway. And, sir, I just closed when we recorded last night, so I do believe it is your turn to...
I'm going to take us out. Well, guys, thank you for joining us for Indie Invasion Shorts. It goes quick all the time every week.
It does.
But... hey, if you guys want some more audio, which we're getting ready to post some more up of a little
look. I think it's, well, not audio, but there is.
But we do have more video.
Yep, new video just went up tonight.
But if you want more content, check us out on our podcast on Podbean, iTunes, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Stitcher, Spotify, Pocket Cast. We're pretty much, when we record stuff, I turn it into audio. So if you don't have time to watch it, you can listen to it in the car. And like we mentioned, new stuff going up. You can check out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. We got a lot of conversation going on Instagram and Discord. Check those out. And if you have any questions or comments or want to tell us about something new you guys stumbled onto, email us at indieinvasion@gmail.com.
Yes.
Now, the place to go to get quick links to all those is the CoastalCon website, coastaltext.com. You can actually listen to our audio in there. We got links to the YouTube, Discord, our sponsors and friends of the show, Unipolar Games, discovergames.org. It's .org, right?
.net.
Okay. And our good buddy that's on here tonight with us, the tabletop engineer, Jim, with his Bexham Bazaar magazine and his free minis hobby Christmas catalog.
That's right, the Christmas catalog.
And if you guys would like to support the show, if you like hearing what we're doing, head over to Patreon/Indie Invasion. If you support us on there, we really appreciate it. But you know what? You don't have to. We have content on there for everybody to view and enjoy. And hey, if you want some cool swag, we don't have a little blurb for it yet, but check us out on Redbubble. It's something new we just started, and we got a bunch of coffee cups. You can get your own little shirt,
hoodies,
comforters. Just get it before Matt gets it all.
Yeah, get it before I do, because apparently I'm just buying all of our merchandise because I like it.
That's right. But guys, that's going to be it for this week, Indie Invasion Shorts. Thanks for joining us for 30 minutes of me and Max solving all gaming problems, one game at a time. Until next time, guys, prepare for the invasion.